Welcome to 100 Yards of Football this morning. Today I got a college football and NFL special. A legend, Ernie Davis, running back, Syracuse University. So if you like the video today, please come in and share it. We'll surely appreciate it here on 100 Yards Football. And again, I'm your host, Vincent Turner. It's been a pleasure and an honor over the last 2 years during this pandemic to do all these great videos about a lot of great football players that played this game. And when you look overall in the history of especially college football, I would say this gentleman that's on the screen may be the greatest player that ever made an impact in college football. And you say to yourself, the reason why Vincent is saying that is because you got to think about Ernie Davis and the times that he played college football. And when you look at it, he played in the early 60s where there was a lot of social change going on in the United States, especially in sports. And when I think about Ernie Davis, and after I did the research on him yesterday and I was reading about him, I think about the impact he made. And the 60s were not a very easy time for African Americans, especially in sports. But then I think about his great feat winning the Heisman Trophy in 1961. And I think about all the other sports accolades that happened in the 60s. See, when Ernie Davis won the Heisman Trophy in 1961, I was only a year and maybe 8 months old. But what I really understand about the situation, listen to this. He was the first African American to win the Heisman Trophy. The first in 1961. And when you look at all those great feats that we look at great sports people that did in the 1960s, you got to put them on the level of Texas El Paso, the Black Starting Five, winning the college basketball championship with the first Black Starting Five. Then you got to put them on that level of a young man that came out of Louisville, Kentucky, that won the heavyweight championship in the beautiful city of Miami in 1964, Cassius Clay / Muhammad Ali. Then you got to put Ernie Davis in with baseball, the 1964 St. Louis Cardinals, that young thoroughbred that was on the mound from Omaha, Nebraska by the name of Bob Gibson, all 6'5" of them. And that speed demon by the name of Lou Brock out of the state of Arkansas. And then you got to put him on that same level of that young man out of Galileo High School, by the way of San Francisco, California, the city of college, junior college, that did his thing in 1967 with the USC Trojans. See, I put Ernie Davis in those categories because all them gentlemen made an impact in the 60s. But I'm going to start with Ernie Davis. The obstacles he had to overcome to get to Syracuse. As a young man, he had a very serious stuttering problem. Then his father, he lost his father. But at the same time, I was born, the same time he won the Heisman Trophy, Ernie Davis was about a year old. And I understand the impact, especially back then. Think about an African-American kid losing his father. Because one thing about that, when you got great men in your life, you're able to conquer great things. And why I say that about Ernie Davis losing his father is that today, as I do this video, I'm very honored and very proud that my father is still living, able to watch this in Memphis, Tennessee at the age of 84. I'm very thankful. And his name is Chester Turner. Getting back to Ernie Davis. After he lost his father at a young age, he went to live with his maternal grandparents who raised him until he was 12 years old. His mother remarried, so he had to go to a whole new life in Western New York in a little town called Elmira. And from that standpoint, he overcame that and ended up becoming one of the most highly recruited athletes back in the late 50s in Western New York. 50 schools wanted him. Notre Dame, Penn State, and Syracuse. But football was not his only sport. The guy was a hell of a point guard on the basketball team. Led his state championship team in basketball to 52 consecutive wins. But we all know he made his bones on the football field. He went to Syracuse on the advice of the great Jim Brown. I don't have to tell y'all how great Jim Brown was. And he went to Syracuse and he made his print. But what I like about Ernie Davis most of all is that he had a gift for God. And he had a great way of bringing people to the Spirit of God. All people from all walks of life. That's what I learned about when he first touched down at Syracuse University on that campus. Then think about the impact he made. Couldn't play as a freshman. But his sophomore year, he led Syracuse to their only national championship in football. And in that great game in the Cotton Bowl against Texas in 1960, he had the biggest play of the game, an 87-yard touchdown reception. And think about that Texas team. They were pretty good. They had Don Hopper. They had Bob Lackey. They had Jack Collins. All pretty good football players. Ernie Davis' sophomore year, he ended up leading Syracuse in the national championship. He had 686 yards rushing, 10 touchdowns. Then he came back his junior year, 877 yards, rushing 7.8 yards a carry. Then his senior year, he had over 823 yards. And his final career stats, 2,386 yards, 6.6 yards a carry, and 35 touchdowns, which followed Jim Brown and what he did at Syracuse. And then think about all the great players that he had to carry on that legacy. There was All-Americans at Syracuse. Harold White, 1915. Alfred Carr, 1917. Pete McCray, 1923. James Steen, 1934. And the biggest legacy, and the most toughest player he had to follow, that young man out of St. Simons, Georgia, by the name of Jim Brown. And I think Ernie Davis did a pretty good job, how his career went. But when you look at his skill set, you got to think about back then they played platoon football, where you played offense and defense. On offense is a running back, the speed, A+. The power, A+. The elusiveness, the catching the football out of the backfield, A+. And then on the defensive side of the ball, he played corner and safety. Covered like no tomorrow. He was the Deion Sanders back then in college football. And then he hit like a bulldozer. Similar to Mike Singletary. Similar to a Lawrence Taylor. Oh, man, he was a special football player. Then think about 1961 when he won the Heisman Trophy. All the great players that was on the college landscape. You had Gary Collins at Maryland, Billy Neighbors at Alabama, Marilyn Olsen at Utah State, Bobby Bell at Minnesota, Roman Gabriel, North Carolina State, Lance Alward, Pick Sue, University of Arkansas, Bob Ferguson, the Ohio State Buckeyes, Sandy Stevens, quarterback, University of Minnesota, and Pat Trambo, University of Alabama. But at 6'2", 210 pounds, he brought every African-American male who wanted to play college football a dream that anything that you pray for. Remember what I said earlier. Ernie Davis had a godly spirit about him, that you can conquer your dreams. And he won the Heisman Trophy in 1961. The first African-American. 3-time All-American. And the first overall African-American to be drafted number 1 overall in the 1962 NFL draft. But what I take from Ernie Davis, special, honor, pride, Let me say it again, pride. And a guy that did it in numerous difficult times in this country. He was a special football player. And before I leave today, just to tell you how special, the President of the United States, John F. Kennedy, went to New York to meet Ernie Davis and personally shake his hand. And when Ernie Davis' career was over, we know how it ended on May 18th, 1963. He died of leukemia, Ernie Davis. John F. Kennedy had these words to say about him. Seldom has an athlete been more deserving of awards than Heisman Trophy. Your high standards of performing on the field and off the field reflects the finest quality of competition, sportsmanship, and citizenship. John F. Kennedy said, "Thank you, Ernie Davis, for representing college football in 1961. And President John F. Kennedy ended it like this. It's a privilege for me to address you tonight as the outstanding football player and a worthy example of our youth throughout this country, in this world. I'm going to say this real shortly and real quietly. Everybody that's associated with Syracuse University, and this is a shout out to you, Coach Brian Smith of Carver Bible College, because your father has history with Syracuse. When you watch this video, you need to get on your knees and just say thank you for this man for representing the Syracuse Orangemen, because he was an outstanding football player and an outstanding gentleman off the field. And think about all the obstacles he had to overcome. Racial intolerance, speed impediment in his young age, and then finally what took his life, leukemia, May 18th, 1963. Never stepped on the field. He was drafted by the Washington Redskins, NFL, traded to the Cleveland Browns, but he never stepped on the field. But I read something that Jim Brown said about Ernie Davis. And Jim Brown, in an article that I read about his comments about Ernie Davis, he was crying. And he said this about Ernie Davis. Ernie Davis asked for nothing. He wanted no special consideration, but he was always grateful for whatever he received. And when he came down with leukemia, he didn't want no pity. And you didn't notice any change about Ernie Davis. He went too soon at 23 years old. This guy right here is going to be one of the most greatest athletes that I'm going to take with my heart and spirit to my grave. Reading about his story gives me inspiration to be the best I can be. And during the times of the 60s, there was so much social rift in this country. He did something that's never been done. The first African American to win the Heisman Trophy, the most prestigious award in all of college football. He was special, man. And if you're a college football fan, I know in our college football playoffs right now, we got the Cincinnati Bearcats, we got the Georgia Bulldogs, we got the Michigan Wolverines, and we got the Alabama Crimson Tide as our Final Four teams. But if you're watching this video today, please do me a favor. Give respect and honor to the young man from Western New York, Mr. Ernie Davis, because he changed the face of college football three-time All-American, first African-American to win the Heisman Trophy, and the first African-American to be drafted #1 overall in the NFL draft. So my final words about Ernie Davis. It's a song that I pulled out yesterday from my collections by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Walk like a man. It goes like this. Walk, walk, walk like a man. Oh, how you try to cut me down to size, telling quality lies to my friends. Ernie Davis, walk like a man. Leading Syracuse to the only national championship in 1959. He walked like a man when he went on that stage in 1961 and accepted the Heisman Trophy. In his final gift to life, he walked like a man when he knew he had leukemia and he took his life. I'm looking up at him in heaven. He's an angel. Ernie Davis, running back, Syracuse University. If you like the video today, please come in and share it. We surely appreciate it here in 100 Yards Football. I'm Vincent Turner, and I'm very thankful and grateful to present this video today about a great person, a great individual, and a tremendous football player that I'm very proud of and I'm going to take to my grave. The legend himself, Ernie Davis, running back, Syracuse University. And special thanks to my man who made it happen today, my producer, Mr. Logan Landers. Y'all enjoy the week. Have a blessed one and be safe during these Christmas holidays. Vincent Turner of 100 Yards of Football.